And all right, folks, we are live.
All right. Hello to our future listeners, because there is no one here yet. This is my favorite part where I'm talking to only the people of the future. That's pretty cool. Let's just wait for a few people to filter and trickle in before we actually start the show. We'll give them a good minute or so. Let's see. There are 3 already. Wow. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see 5 of you guys here. Wonderful for you all to join us today. We're pretty excited. Here's a 6th one. Very excited today to bring you guys a presentation on iOS, something that I believe a lot of us in the blind community find ourselves using simply because it's been the gold standard for mobile accessibility. Android's catching up, it's caught up, it's really good. Not to take anything away from it, but I think it's still pretty safe to say. Oh, hello. Amongst blind people, at least, iOS remains sort of the predominant force in terms of what we use. But before we jump into that, I do want to introduce our panel today. Today, we are being joined by Aaron Hoffman. He's our lead adaptive technology instructor here at TAB. And Bailey Alger. Hello, Bailey Alger. He is another adaptive tech instructor. We also have Dan Hart here, a data and accessibility specialist. He'll facilitate tonight. Looking out for you guys is raised hands and questions. Hello. Speaking of raised hands and questions, if you wish to participate in the conversation tonight, you can do so with a Mac and Windows or phone. To raise your hand, which will allow you to speak to us directly using your microphone. On Windows, Alt plus Y will do so. On Mac, Command plus Y will do so. On your telephones, if we have any telephone users, *9 will allow you to raise your hand and speak to us. If you don't have a microphone or are shy, which you shouldn't be, we're nice people, Alt plus H and Command plus H will allow you to input a question into the chat field. We'll see it and we'll respond to it in accordance. Please feel free. We love holding a conversation, ongoing conversation inside the webinar and outside. So always, please don't hesitate to reach out to any member of the team and we'll try to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So without further ado, today's webinar is entitled iOS Refresh. And iOS, of course, is the iPhone operating system, or the iPhone, iPad, iWatch, I believe, uses a different OS. iPhone, iPod, and iPad iOS. And these have been the gold standard, the flagship for Apple's mobile operating systems, and have been the most popular mobile operating system in the last, I'd say, 10 years at least. Right now, we're up to iOS 14, which introduced several new features that we want to go over. Now, these features range from accessibility features like backtap and voiceover recognition for the blind to the app library that sort of takes from Android and gives people the ability to be more customizable with their home screen. Also, a new Translate app, which allows you to hold conversations in real time from language to language, and a myriad of other little nicks and tricks that you can also use. So hopefully something here tonight is a bit informative to you and helps you better use your phone. Now, I want to reiterate, this isn't an introduction to iOS. It's not a how to use your iPhone webinar. It's here's what's new, and here is how to improve upon your knowledge of the iPhone. I believe we've already done a webinar on iPhone, but if people want it, if people desire for us to teach, do a webinar on very basic iPhone, iOS accessibility things, we would be more than happy to do so. But before we actually dive into the new features offered in iOS 14, I want to start by reiterating and refreshing 3 of the main components that comprise accessibility in iOS. We'll start with Voiceover, which is what a lot of us use. Voiceover is the native onboard assistive text screen reading software that Apple offers with any iOS device. It uses a series of flicks and gestures and taps to carry out all functions. All native apps that come with the iPhone, like Calendar, Mail, Safari, which is the web browser, music, phone, text messaging, et cetera, are completely accessible because of VoiceOver. Because of VoiceOver, we are able to do literally anything that your sighted or higher partial vision colleagues and friends can do. A lot of apps on the App Store are also very accessible now that developers who design these apps actually take accessibility for the blind and deaf very seriously now. And it's just something that Apple's been pushing. And I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch for Apple, it's far from it, but respect does have to be given to Apple for continuously introducing accessibility settings and accessibility features that improve upon year by year as far as, hey, now you can do this, and it's actually better than last year's this. So let's start with VoiceOver. I already have VoiceOver on my phone, but I just want to show everyone how to turn it on and some very basic gestures on it. So let me launch my phone, or unlock my phone. All right, now to open VoiceOver, or to turn it on, you could do one of three things. One, if you have Siri enabled, you could simply activate Siri. Turn off VoiceOver.
Okay, VoiceOver is now off.
But I want to turn it back on. So turn on VoiceOver.
Okay, VoiceOver is now on.
And of course, I have an iPhone SE 2nd Gen, which has a home button. So you could either use the Hey Siri, the verbal Hey Siri function, or I believe on the X and later, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 3-finger swipe up for Siri, or is it a holding the side button on the side of the phone to activate Siri? That's how you would do it on the newer phones.
Yes, it's holding the side button.
Awesome. Another way to open VoiceOver or to enable VoiceOver, which comes native to the iPhone by default, you can change this though, is by either triple tapping the home or side button that you use to launch Siri 3 times. You triple tap it and this will toggle VoiceOver on and off. You can change this, but as by default, when you first launch an iPhone, before you even set it up, before you even have the iPhone signed into an Apple ID or have it connected to a Wi-Fi network, triple tapping this button will make VoiceOver switch on. And that's pretty cool because it used to be back in the day, back in the dark ages, where you needed sighted assistance to set up your iPhone. And finally, the conventional method of getting to the VoiceOver settings. And I want to show you this because this is how you get to most accessibility settings on the iPhone, is through the Settings Center. So let's go to Settings.
Listen, button. Dock, page 1 of settings.
Settings. Now that we've launched Settings, we launch Accessibility.
Bluetooth, cellular, personal hotspot.
And I'm doing this, I'm moving by settings with right finger, one-handed flicks to the right.
Sounds, do not, screen, general, control, display, home screen, accessibility.
So here's accessibility. I'll double tap on that with one finger.
Vision. VoiceOver.
I'll swipe twice to the right to click on VoiceOver.
VoiceOver. On.
And then I could double tap right here to turn on VoiceOver. One last thing I want to showcase is if you take your hands and perform a 4-finger double tap, so take 4 fingers and lay them on the screen 2 times in a row, really fast.
Starting help. To stop help, perform a 4-finger double tap or 2-finger scrub, or press escape on the keyboard.
You will launch the Voiceover Help, and this works like a keyboard help menu. So you can perform swipes, taps, flicks, and they will tell you what they're supposed to perform. For example,
1-finger swipe down. Next rotor item.
1-finger swipe down would move to the next rotor item. Of course, you would need a working knowledge of what a rotor is to know what exactly that does. But once you amass that knowledge, it's pretty useful. So that's a very, very, very basic outlook of what VoiceOver is, what it does. I have no vision, no working vision whatsoever, and I would just navigate it through the iPhone with absolutely no trouble. And that's the totally blind alternative, or if you're a low vision user, obviously you would use it too in conjunction with something like Zoom or Magnifier, which we will kick it over to Aaron and he'll showcase the low vision accessibility features like Zoom and Magnifier. So take it away, Aaron.
Thank you, Eric. We can start with, on the basic route, we'll keep with Zoom. And Zoom is, of course, the way to zoom in. Zoom and magnifier are different terms. We think of magnifier for magnifying and zooming in like a handheld CCTV, and zoom just to make something bigger. So some terms you will hear, they're a little different, but zoom here is just zooming in on your phone. And like Eric said, as we found the voiceover settings in there, in the settings menu, we can go into the settings menu again, and we will look for the accessibility menu and zoom for our zoom. So
Page 1 of 3. Settings.
okay,
Personal. Control. Home. Accessibility. Button.
accessibility,
Accessibility features help you customize. Zoom. On.
and now we'll go to zoom.
Zoom. On. Off.
So there's a toggle switch here. I'll toggle it on.
Zoom. On. Zoom magnifies the entire screen.
And to enable or disable zoom, you can double tap with 3 fingers.
Double tap 3 fingers.
Double
to zoom.
tap. Double tap. Now, VoiceOver, if you have it on, it doesn't tell you that it's enabled or disabled. You can drag with 3 fingers to move around the screen itself. And you can also double tap and drag with 3 fingers. This will adjust the zoom level, down or up.
Features help you accessibility
Shush.
settings.
And when you move around, you can adjust the zoom level from 2x to 15x. And you can also use different zoom regions. For example, if you want a small docked window at the top or bottom, you can use the window zoom region. You can also just use full screen for the full tablet or iPhone. And another menu, another item we can look at is the magnifier. And that is also in settings. That's helpful for reading menus or smaller bits of information. And to get into that, we'll also go into the Start menu and Accessibility. Into Accessibility, General, Accessibility,
Accessibility features help you customize.
and now we'll go into Magnifier. Now,
Magnifier. Off.
Magnifier is off,
Double tap to
but
toggle setting.
when we toggle it here, oh, it doesn't say anything. So if we go back to the Home menu, we can find it.
Tap to App Store. Magnifier.
Magnifier, there we
Double
are.
tap to open.
Now, we can double tap here to launch it, or we can triple tap again, and that'll just bring up the Accessibility Shortcuts menu.
Alert. Accessibility shortcuts.
And here we can also find,
Selected. Voiceover. Button. Magnifier. Button.
we can find Magnifier here. So I'll double tap it. And now, here,
Magnifier. Viewfinder. Image. Handwriting. Printed page. Exit freeze frame. Freeze frame.
now, what I've done is I'm actually pointing the I'm pointing the phone at my computer screen. And you heard Jaws say something, and we're going to get to that very soon. It's called image recognition. But one of the very helpful things about the magnifier is you can use visual settings such as
Grabber. Select. Zoom. 0%.
zoom settings. You can zoom from 2x to 15x, just like your
Finger to adjust
zoom.
value. Selected. Filters. No filter. Button.
And you can also select filters here. For example, if you read best with green text on a black background, or if you need inverted or blue on yellow or yellow on blue, you can set those here. And it's fantastic for different lighting situations. And you can also set things like brightness controls and contrast controls for better reading modes. And there are there's a new feature actually in the commands for magnifier, and it's multi-shot. And multi-shot lets you take a few different pictures of an object. Let's say walk around, take a picture, walk around, take a picture. And then you can use those pictures sort of like an album. And then you can look at them one by one by one to get a better idea of the whole of an object, let's say. And okay. There's also a small filter that you can apply also in the Zoom. When you're using Zoom, you can also set a small filters such as low light, where it turns the light down for ambient lighting, or you can also use inverted color image. And that's helpful when you're reading things. And if you're using the magnifier, you heard VoiceOver say text on background or text when I first started up. And that's a feature called Voiceover Recognition, which is a very interesting feature that iOS 14 has just implemented. And I can kick it back to Eric, who will explain about Voiceover Recognition.
Real quick, fellas, we've got a question
Yep.
from somebody, from Miss Diana. And
Hello.
Miss Diana, there you go, Miss Diana.
Oh, cool. I'm talking on my Mac. I think I heard a couple different things about the accessibility shortcut, because somehow when I triple tap my phone,
Right.
it doesn't start VoiceOver. It gives me like a menu. Like I'll say,
Oh, okay.
you'll have like a VoiceOver, Magnifier, Zoom. Like, what is all this? I just want VoiceOver to start. Is that what you were talking about a minute ago?
Yes, it was actually the triple tapping the home button. Now you can change that. You can launch. You have it set to ask you which accessibility to set, but you can change this.
Well, I just picked all of them because I wanted all of them, but I didn't realize it didn't go straight to VoiceOver as the primary.
Right.
Accessibility shortcut.
And actually, to change that, I'm looking at it right now. You'd go to accessibility, and then at the very bottom, you see accessibility shortcut. And
Yeah.
then here, you choose what it does, and you just select, which, hey, I wanted to do this only.
Oh,
If
okay.
you select multiple, it's going to bring up, hey, which one do you want me to launch? And that can get kind of annoying.
Yeah, I selected multiple because I wanted to have them all, but I didn't realize it turns off VoiceOver as the.
Right.
Okay.
And actually, stay here for the rest of the webinar, because back tap, we're going to cover that. And that adds 2 new accessibility shortcuts to your phone. So that's pretty cool. So just stay tuned for that one.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for the question. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Diana. Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely. All right. Now, here's a big one. Here's a massive one. And it's voice recognition. And what this is OCR, Optical Character Recognition, native to the iPhone. And just like Seeing AI offers, what this does is it will read or attempt to read to you text that is embedded in an image. For example, let's say you are looking at an image. Let's say you're looking at a menu. It's not so advanced just yet, but let's say you're looking at a menu, a photo with some embedded text in it. For example, on Paycom, on the logo screen, it'll read to you now, Home, Travis Association for the Blind. It'll describe to you both the image and read to you the text on that image. And there are 3 new things that came with that voice recognition setting. There's screen recognition, which attempts to make apps more accessible by labeling buttons, labeling elements that currently don't have labels. For example, say you're in an app and you're scrolling through and you hear button. Well, if you have screen recognition on, this will try to assign a label to that button using artificial intelligence and OCR. It'll say button, and then it might try to say next afterwards, right? It'll try to sort of guess, hey, this is what this button is supposed to do, to try and dispel some of that ambiguity. Right now, this feature isn't the greatest thing. It's only used in some very niche situations, but it can be helpful. And it's the cool thing about this is it's still in its infancy. And just like with JAWS, when it first came out, OCR was very lackluster. It was not the greatest. But now JAWS OCR is one of the most powerful things that the program uses. And by the way, JAWS is the one of the very many screen readers that we use on Windows computers. But I'm just trying to draw a comparison right now. So just right, the fact that this has come to iPhone is pretty spectacular, pretty big. Outside of screen recognition, we have something called text recognition, and that's also being able to read text that's embedded in images. And then we have image descriptions, and this is a really fun one because the iPhone will try to use AI and OCR technology to describe to you what a picture looks like. For example, let me open up Uber Eats because I know that has a lot of pictures. Open Uber Eats. All
Uber
right.
Eats. Search field.
So here I am in the search page of Uber Eats with all the different food categories, and I want you to listen to this.
Mexican. Button. A plate of quesadillas and salad next to a cup of coffee.
So you heard Mexican button, and then you heard a little beep, and that's a verbal indicator that OCR just started doing its thing. Afterwards, you heard a plate of quesadillas sitting next to a cup of coffee. That's what VoiceOver using OCR is trying or thinks that the picture has. It's obviously not 100% accurate all the time, and it's not going to tell you, hey, this is a woman wearing, a red dress with blue sandals. That look weird, kind of like really weird, right? But it's not going to be that specific, but it might say something like a woman wearing a dress and shoes. So again, we're not to the point where you can get full-on image descriptions of what something looks like, but we're to the point where you can at least get an idea of what something looks like. So when you're sorting, for example, your photos, you can say, oh, that's the one I took at the ballpark. It says a field with kids running on it, So let me show you some more.
Pizza. Button. A person holding a pizza on a wooden surface.
Pizza.
Fast food. Button. A group of burgers and fries on a wooden surface. Chinese. Button. A plate of meat and vegetables next to a bowl of rice on a table. American. Button. A burger and fries on a wooden board.
American is just burger and fries. They know us very well. I'm just kidding. But yes, you can see that these pictures are very accurate to the categories they are tied to. Let me open Paycom to show you guys the text recognition. I'm going to find a text now with, I'm going to find a picture with text embedded into its body. For example, a caption or a picture with text inside of it already. So let me open Paycom, open Paycom. I'm using Siri to open it because I'm too lazy to. Oh, my session expired. I got Touch ID, so no one's going to hear anything crazy.
Activate Touch ID alert. Touch ID for Paycom. Welcome back, Eric.
And I only want to show you guys one thing in
6 hours,
Paycom,
50.
and it's not my W4. All right, so I'm going to go up here to the top left where it says Home button. And for you VoiceOver users, you're going to notice one very cool new thing. So let's tap on Home.
Home page. Link. Image. A blue and white sign with red and white text. Travis Association for the Blind.
That is game-changing, guys. So you heard several things. Home, image, boop, blue and white, a sign. I forgot already, but it was a sign. It described to you what the sign looks like with text on it. And then it read to you the text, Travis Association for the Blind. So there it used both image description and text recognition software and skills to show me the two things about that one image. That is, I mean, I just can't, I'm so excited about that. I've used that on Facebook with friends and whatnot, and it does work. I'm like, hey, this is a view, this is you playing beat bar, right? She goes, yeah, this is me playing. How'd you know? Because it's voice recognition. I told one of my sighted friends, I was like, hey, you're drinking a margarita? He was like, how do you know? I said, oh, because VoiceOver told me a glass, and I know you like margaritas, a glass with a drink, mixed drink inside of it or something like that. I was like, oh, margarita. So I was like, it's really cool because, prior to that, you really had to sort of just deal with the fact that if someone didn't put captions or descriptions on an image, you just wouldn't know what the picture was about, at least for your iPhone. One last thing I want to show is how to use. I don't have any clear examples of how this can be useful, but to access the screen recognition, which tries to label unlabeled fields, you would use the rotor in any application. And the rotor, of course, is accessed you cycle through the rotor by, it's hard to explain. Oh, by turning your fingers on the screen counter or clockwise. So one finger goes down while the other finger goes up.
Characters, words, header, characters, words, lines, text select, speaking rate, language, headings, links, form control, screen recognition.
So you heard screen recognition. Now, if I want to enable it, I would swipe down.
Screen recognition on for Paycom.
Screen recognition on for Paycom. That means the phone is trying to label and group buttons that it thinks should go together. Right now, it doesn't work all that great. I have gotten it to work in one app for one button. It was very, very niche, but I know that knowing Apple, they're going to improve upon this and they're going to make it very, very impressive. One last thing I want to show is how to launch voice recognition.
Screen recognition.
This is done by going into the voiceover settings menu. So settings, accessibility, voiceover, and then tap on voice recognition. You'll see all three: text select, screen recognition, text recognition, and image description. You can enable all three, or you can just enable one of them. And you will need to download a package for each one. They're not that big. It takes, all three take up about 300 megs, I believe, on your iPhone. So to me, that's just amazing new accessible technology. And I hope all of you play with it tonight, especially the totally blind or very low vision people, and just see what kind of fun you can get up to. All right. Next up, I want to kick it over to Bailey, who's going to talk about something that's brand new to the iPhone, and that is the app library. So go ahead, Bailey. Take it away.
Hello. So,
Hold on.
new in iOS 14 is the app library, which is a sort of, it's a way to group all of your apps together into one large, concise sort of area, because as a lot of you iOS users will know, is that pages, when you have a lot of apps, having pages and pages of them definitely gets confusing. But now iOS has sort of given you a way to manage that, and that is the app library. You may be wondering where to find that. It's actually quite simple. So I'm on page 1 of my home screen. I'm going to go to page 2.
Page 2 of 3. Files.
Page 3. And then
Accessible hangman.
I do the page, the next page gesture again, and
Row 1.
oops,
App library.
here we are.
Search field.
So
Actions available.
the app library itself is pretty simple. It divides your app types into groupings, and it will show you three apps, and then give you a folder that with which to expand them. If you have more than 3 apps, some of my categories have something like 14, so you get the 3 most recent ones you've used, and then the 4th icon in that grouping is the folder containing all those apps, which you can open and expand and then take a look. So I'm going to scroll through it just a little bit for you to give you what it sounds like. If you're using VoiceOver, you'll notice that it says the name of the grouping in a slightly lower pitch and then the first app. So the first grouping will always be suggested.
Suggestions. Settings. DoorDash. Camera. Skype.
And then
Recently added. Accessible hangman. Papa John's. Cash App. Recently added folder. 8 apps.
and you see how it did the 3 most recently added apps that I used, and then the folder name. And then we have
Social. Messages. 1 unread message. Facebook. Messenger. Social folder. 8 apps.
and yeah, it goes on, so on and so forth. One unfortunate thing with the app library is there's no fast way to navigate between groupings as of now. With VoiceOver, there's no rotor option. There's no quick jump. You can tap somewhere in the screen close to where you want to be, but currently, if you would like to find a specific app, um, the fastest way may be to use search, which is interesting because
Accessible.
oops, move me
App
out of,
library. App search field.
because when you click on the search field,
App library. Cancel. Section index.
it
Cancel.
will bring up the search field, and then it will give you an alphabetical list of all your apps.
Active building. IRA. Amazon App Store.
So you can either go app by app, or you can search specifically for the one you need.
App cancel. Cancel.
Another thing that Apple has introduced, so if you would like to declutter your home pages, you can actually set it so every time you download a new app, you can have it just go straight to the app library and not appear on your home screen. But if you do want it to appear on your home screen still, you can turn that on. I think on the iOS 14 update, it by default makes it so any new app you download goes straight to the app library. But if you'd like to change this, just go to settings, go to home screen, and you'll find the option to change it between just home screen, just app library, or both home screen and app library. Another thing that
library. Search field.
can be done is if you have an app that you installed beforehand, or that you put on the home screen but then realized you wanted to go into the app library, it's a little bit unorthodox how you do it. So let's use this Hangman app for an example. If I wanted to add it to my app library,
Accessible Hangman.
I would
Edit mode.
first go to use the rotor actions to go to edit mode,
Started editing. Delete.
delete,
Alert.
but you
Move
don't want
accessible
to delete
Hangman
the
to
app.
library or delete the app.
See, the question it will ask you is,
Move accessible Hangman to app library or delete the app. Moving the app will remove it from the home screen and keep all of its data.
and then you have the option to,
Delete app button.
which we don't want to do,
Move to app library button. Add widget button.
and then I'm still on my home screen, but you'll notice,
Dice work Chewy. App team from YouTube.
you'll notice that
Active building.
my accessible Hangman game is no longer here.
App store.
It's a little bit more complicated to
Page
put
2
it
of
back
3.
on the home
Page 3
screen,
of 3. YouTube.
unfortunately.
App library. Utilities.
But
Utilities.
let's
Calendar
say
watch. Messenger.
you wanted
app,
to
stored camera. Papa John. Accessible.
to put your app on the home screen. What you would do is you would click
Edit mode.
once
Started
again,
editing. Stop edit. Drag accessible Hangman.
and then you would click drag.
Add widget.
Then
Button.
you would swipe over.
YouTube is editing.
You would.
4 new
It will
items.
automatically drop you on your
Actions available.
last
Drops
page.
available. 5 new items.
It will automatically drop you on your last page, where you can, start moving through your pages to drop and drop it, or arrange apps around it.
Add to drop
So
accessible Hangman after YouTube.
I'm going to drop that,
complete.
and then
Row 1, column 2. Fit dice world.
that's
Speech off.
that. You can interact with every app icon in the app library the same as you would on the home screen. For example, if you are familiar with the long press on various apps, where you long press on an app and it will bring up a series of different activities or quick actions you can do. For example, on mail, if you double tap and hold that, it will bring up a menu where you can check your mail quickly, compose a new message, stuff like that. that is also available in the app library. So yeah, as you can see, App Library puts your apps in a lot more convenient space for you. It lets you, it organizes them automatically for you. There's sometimes that may get a little bit frustrating, but it is a much more convenient way to see your apps, a much quicker way to manage them, to find them, and I would honestly use it exclusively if Apple, allowed you to hide all your home pages, which is something we may talk about later. But it's very cool. It's very, very useful, and has a very, very small learning curve. But that's all I have on that. I'm going to pass it back to Eric now.
All right, and
Thank
I'm
you.
going to kick it over to Aaron, who's going to showcase the Translate app. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hang on 1 second here,
Oh.
Philip. We've got another question from
All right.
Miss Diana. Go
Cool.
ahead. Go ahead and unmute yourself there, Miss Diana. You should be. There you go.
All right, I'm good.
Hello.
So I have a question about something earlier. The
Mhm.
voice recognition.
Yes.
I get a lot of pictures that have like quotes or something on it, but it's a picture. The
Mhm.
words are pictures.
Yes.
Does that read the picture, and does it read the words? Like if there's
Yes.
a quote or something on it?
So there's a quote on that picture, and you have the text recognition function on and enabled. You will be able to read the quote. Hopefully, it's not a 100% assured
Depends on the
thing.
font and-
Right, resolution
good.
and picture, but you should probably be able to read it if it's a good picture.
Yeah, lots of people like to send me
Cool.
whatever those are called with words on it.
Right.
And
Awesome.
I can't see what they
Yeah. So go. You should test it.
like.
Turn
this
it on
is-
and give it a go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
test it. Thank you.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you. All right, Aaron. Go ahead and showcase this translate. I really like this because I use it to help my mom with things, actually. So.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, this is a treat for linguists and people who like to play with language. Apple has introduced a Translate app. It's comparable to other services such as Google Translate that you may have used on the phone, and it's pretty fun. I will launch it now.
From English, translate. Empty line. Listen. Button.
I'll go to the top.
From English to Japanese. Button.
And here, this is a simple translation app. It'll download data for use offline if you need to, or you can use the online translation features. And it has quite a few languages available. I'll go into one of the languages here and I'll double tap.
From English to Japanese.
Let's say English, Japanese. Let's double tap in here. And this will give us a nice little list.
Double tap to dismiss pop-up window. Button. Double tap to dismiss pop-up window. Button. Languages. Heading. Done. Button. Recent. Heading. Chinese. New line. China mainland. Button. Selected. Japanese. Arabic. Chinese. English. English. French. German. Italian. Selected. Japanese. Korean. Portuguese. Russian. Spanish. New line. Spain. Button.
And these are some of the languages that it has available, and you can actually download them offline so you can use them when you're in airplane mode. And I'll go to done here. And here, for example,
English. US. Button.
one of the nicest features about this program is if I tip it into landscape mode,
Landscape. Home button to the right. English. US. Tap mic to speak. Listen. Button. Speak in either English or Japanese to translate. Use magic tap when finished. Alert. Translation unavailable. Okay. Okay.
all right, let me set this, there we go.
Empty line.
Okay,
Listen.
this is a test.
English. Enter text. English.
Alright.
US. This is a test. Japanese. これはテストです。
And there it was.
Actions available.
It gives a simple way to have a conversation with someone. When you're done tapping, when you're done after a short pause, you want to make sure you double tap if you're using VoiceOver, because it will pick up your VoiceOver text and assume it's English
Screen tip.
or Japanese in this case. And you can have a conversation. I was having a conversation with my friend. I was speaking in Japanese and he was speaking in Spanish, and we were talking about breakfast. It was very fun. And let's see. There we go for the pause. All right. And the language application, it uses either online or offline language. So if you want better recognition, use online. If you need it offline, you can also use it offline. And they're going to be adding some more languages and dialects, which is very exciting. And if you have a phrase you use very commonly, very often,
1914. English.
you can.
US. Tap. Favorites. Tap. 2 of 2.
You can tap on the favorite,
English. US. To
the
Japanese.
favorites tab.
Enter text. Tab bar. Favorites.
And favorites there will let you add that phrase and its translation into a phrase book of your own. So if you use it constantly, you can go to the phrase book that you've made and enter it, and it will also speak it for you. And there's one more feature I'd like to demonstrate.
English.
I'll go
US.
into one of the
This is a test.
translations.
Japanese.
I'll
English.
double tap
US.
in there.
This is a test. English. US.
Okay.
Tab bar. English. US.
I'll go to mode, landscape mode,
Landscape.
and I'll tap on the bottom
English.
left.
US. This is a test. Broadcast mode. Button. Broadcast mode shows the translation result in large text in the center of the screen.
Now what this will do is, if I double tap it, it will actually read out, kore wa testo desu. And it's in large Japanese characters in the middle of the screen. So if you were saying something and someone didn't understand you, you could tap the broadcast button and it would show it in large letters. In this case, it's in Japanese script. It will also work in Russian, Chinese, whatnot. So it's very helpful and fun for communication and to get out your Spanish conjugations 2 minutes before the exam. And next up, we have, I'll pass it back to Eric.
All right. And I'm excited about this one. I love this feature, and it's back tap. Diane, coming back to you. You talked about how, hey, you wanted to set all 3 accessibility settings to your triple tap home button. Hey, you can now have just one assigned to your triple tap home button because Apple is using all of the real estate. You thought the front of the phone was all you needed. Well, now you use the back side of the phone too. And what this does, it literally lets you use 2 new gestures. With one finger, you can either double tap or triple tap the back of the phone, and it will launch a particular defined accessibility or non-accessibility even. There are some other system settings that you can launch by back tapping the phone. So let me just go through some of these. To activate back tap, we're gonna go to accessibility.
Search.
So
Cellular. Personal. Wi-Fi.
let's go to accessibility.
Note. Sound. Screen. General. Controls. Display. Home screen. Accessibility.
All right,
Accessibility.
now we're gonna go to physical and motor using our heading navigation.
Headings. Carrots. Heading. Vision. Physical and motor. Touch.
Now we're gonna go to touch,
Assisted
and
touch.
at the very bottom is back tap.
Back tap. On.
Perfect.
Double tap.
I already have it on.
Button.
Now here we have 2 features,
Back. Double tap.
double tap
Triple
and
tap.
triple
Speak
tap.
screen. Buttons.
Of course, this means the number of times you tap the back side of the screen. So I've got it set.
Triple. Double tap. None.
I have
Button.
no double tap set right now,
Triple tap. Speak screen.
but my triple tap is set to speak screen. That's for when, if I'm really lazy and I don't want to swipe through things, triple tapping the back side of the screen, for me at least, will speak everything in sequential order. So let's go through some of the different settings that you can set using back tap.
None.
So
Triple tap. Heading. None.
we can have none.
Accessibility. Accessibility shortcut.
We have accessibility shortcut.
Heading. App switcher. Control center.
We have app switcher, control center.
Lock screen.
You can launch the home screen. You can lock your screen. If you don't want to touch that, if you don't want to reach all the way up to the front of your phone or upper side of the phone and hit the lock button, you can double tap the back of the screen if you so choose. You can, if you have one of the newer iPhones and you don't want to swipe up, If you don't have a home button and you don't want to swipe up from the bottom with one finger, set double or triple tap to launch the home button. You can do that now.
Mute.
You can mute your phone.
Notification center.
You can launch the notification center.
Screenshot.
You can take a screenshot. And this was awesome. I actually got my brother to use this because you don't need to have, you don't need to have VoiceOver active for this one. But if you wanted to take a screenshot, you can just double back tap or triple back tap with the screen. You don't need to do the, I believe was it home and the sleep button would take a screenshot of your phone. It's been a long time since I've done those. But now you could set it to do a double back tap or triple back tap, and that will take a screenshot of your current screen.
Shade.
You can launch Siri with back tap, Spotlight, volume down and up. And of course, for all of your accessibility users, you can activate any of the accessibility functions that come natively with the iPhone. For example, Magnifier, Invert, Smart Invert, VoiceOver, Zoom, Assistive Touch. There are only a few different things that you can set. For example, I'm going to set Magnifier here. All right.
Back tap. Back tap.
Awesome.
Triple tap. Double tap. None. Triple tap. Magnifier.
So I'm going to triple tap the back side of my phone, and it should launch the Magnifier. There it is.
Magnifier. Viewfinder.
I did nothing other than tap the back side of my phone. You don't need to have VoiceOver or any other accessibility feature on. This is a motor feature. It is native. It's its own standalone. For example, if you wanted to use VoiceOver Recognition, you would need VoiceOver. But this works on its own. It can benefit anyone from the most sighted 20/20 user to someone that's blinder than a bat, just like me. I'm still trying to figure out what settings I want to incorporate into back tap. So again, this how to activate back tap is on the agenda. So if you want to activate back tap, read that or refer to this webinar.
Hey, Eric.
Settings.
Hey, Eric, I have a question for you real quick.
Yes, please.
What generation of iPhones will this work on? Is it all generations, or is it like from the 10 forward?
To my knowledge, it should work on all generations that support iOS 14. This is an iOS 14 feature, and it should work on all generations all generations of the iPhone that support it.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It's awesome. I mean, it's Apple just taking advantage of as much real estate as possible. So if anyone has any questions before we wrap up here, please do so right now. There are a few more things that I want to showcase, just tiny little things that Apple introduced. Let's go to the messages real quick.
Music. Messages.
And I don't want to. So one cool thing now is that you can take conversations regardless of when they happened and pin them to the top of your messages. For example, I'm just going to swipe randomly. And the further I swipe, the older the message, right?
+1. +1. 6. 5. 2. 4. 7.
Here's a random spam.
Make your voice heard. Take the flattening the inaccessibility curve survey bid.
Okay, here's a message from an IRA newsletter. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this.
Pin.
By swiping down once with one finger, and I'll double tap on pin. And now what that's done is it's moved that conversation to the top of the list of conversations. So regardless of, hey, this person hasn't messaged me in 15 days, or it doesn't matter really. Now you don't have an excuse to ignore mom or the mother-in-law, right? Because she says, hey, you can just pin me to the top of your conversations list. Oh no, right? So
+1.
that will always be there. That will always be at the very top.
Edit.
For example, here, I'm going to start swiping from edit.
Message. Compose. Search. Dictate. Conversations. +1. 8. 3. 0. 4.
So now
Maybe.
that's at the very top of my conversations list. And this was a message I randomly received from Ira months ago. I just wanted to show you that, hey, now you don't have to scroll and look for those elusive conversations that are buried deep within the bowels of your message history. Now, one more thing I want to show is the fact that now,
+1.
let me find a conversation with some multiple dates.
2. 5. 1. 6.
Eric?
1. Dorian.
Yes.
Cool, thanks, man.
Hey, we've got another question here real quick.
Okay, go ahead, please.
+1.
Okay. Go ahead there, Miss Diana.
Oh, hey, I really like this double the tap.
Oh,
It works
yes.
on my XS Max, and I
Okay.
have a really thin silicone case, and it works with the case on it.
Right.
And I didn't know which one was double tap and which one was triple tap.
Oh, well, when you activate, when you launch the back tap settings, you'll see two different items. You'll see double tap and triple tap. And each time,
Oh, okay.
right. So if you click on double tap, it gives you a list of settings you can assign to that. And once you assign it, if you double tap the back side of the screen, it'll launch that particular assigned setting or action.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's awesome.
No problem. No problem. And unfortunately, I can't find the message. I should have vetted my messages before, but using heading navigation, you can move by dates in messages. For example, let's say you have a very, very long conversation with your mother that spans years, because I sure hope we all have that. My conversations with my mom span 2 years on this iPhone or throughout my iPhone. Using heading navigation, I can move by day. Hey, I want to find a particular thing my mom sent me back around this time period. Using headings, I can now move to that particular date. That's pretty cool. In group conversations, you can move by person. I believe it's by person who has talked in that conversation. So if someone sent 15 messages in a row, you could skip all those messages with one swipe of a heading. One last thing one quick thing. I want to show you how you can now send emojis. And I know we're very crunched for time, but I want to show all my blind friends and people who are listening how you can now easily incorporate emojis, because it's so much fun to use them. I'm just going to click on a random number here, and I'm going to launch the Emoji Keyboard by tapping the next keyboard button. So I'm going to double tap and hold, and then swipe up to emojis. All right, here we are in emojis, and as we know, there are thousands of these things. Smiling face. So if I wanted to find a dog, it would take me quite a while. But now with the search feature, I'm going to tap on the middle of the screen.
Search emoji.
There you heard search emoji. I'll double tap that, and I'll type in dog. And now it's pulled up all the results that feature the word
Conversation.
dog, or
Service.
guide dog, poodle, service dog, paw prints. That's awesome. I've sent 57 emojis in one message now just to have fun with it. It's so much fun. And it's just those little things that showcase how accessible Apple, or how much accessibility Apple is trying to bring to the table. Because something like emojis, for a lot of companies, it would be something that's so far down the back burner. But this is just something Apple casually introduced into a release of iOS. The final thing of these little miscellaneous things that I want to showcase is for the deaf blind, or the deaf, or people hard of hearing. And it's not the greatest working as far as its effectiveness, but the concept is amazing. And I've gotten it to work a few times, and that's sound recognition. So I'm going to open sound recognition settings.
Here are your iPhone settings.
All right. Well, what sound recognition does is you turn it on, and it replaces Hey Siri with sound recognition. And what it does is your iPhone is going to hear certain sounds that you've assigned and inform you, hey, this sound just went off. For example, I've gotten it to work with a knock. So you assign a knock to sound recognition. And if your phone with the microphone hears, it's going to say, hey, a sound was heard. It sounds like a knock. So you can set things like baby cries, barking, traffic. You can set fire alarms. Again, it's not something you should use to depend on in life-saving situations, or in situations where your health might be in danger, because it doesn't 100% work. But it's just another blanket of security. If you have any people that are hard of hearing, you can set this up on their phone. And of course, you go to accessibility and then sound recognition under the hearing heading. And I don't have that set up right now, and honestly, sometimes it's a little frustrating to showcase because it doesn't always pick up the sounds, unfortunately. But as microphones improve and as iPhones improve, this stuff's only going to get better, guys, and I have no doubt about it. Apple doesn't fail us. But with that, I'd like to open the floor for any last questions. I hope you guys have picked up some new things and tips and tricks and whatnot. And if my panelists here have anything to add, please go ahead.
I have to say, from an Android perspective, there's some pretty impressive features that are added in here. I think you hit on something great in the beginning there, Eric, where Android it's definitely done a lot to catch up with iOS as far as accessibility. I do still feel like the Apple side of the house is still just a touch ahead of Android. But I think, like you said, that gap is, I think, definitely closing.
Absolutely.
There's some pretty cool, that back tap, I want to see how long that takes to get on the Android platform, because that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. I would use that a lot.
Yeah, I wish there was more back tap, like a 2-finger back tap, 3-finger tap, you know? Like, you could do so much with that. You can just make everything so streamlined all of a sudden. So that'd be cool.
I know the Pixel devices there for a while, you could actually squeeze them to activate the Google Assistant, and I thought, ooh, that's pretty cool. And and I had a chance to handle one, and it didn't really feel like it was giving or anything. It was pretty cool. So, you know, some of it's been done before, so we'll see.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. For me, back tap was the biggest for sure. I was like, oh no, now I can activate Siri. Now I can do that. Now I can, you know, Magnifier if I ever needed it. I could use Magnifier. Or you know, XYZ. And of course, for me, just because it made my heart jump with joy, emojis, being able to just look for emojis and do it like in a minute, it made me so happy. And just, it's really cool to see that from developers and manufacturers, right? They take something that many people would consider not a big deal. Like, I never sat there and went, man, I wish I could use emojis. I was like, it'd be nice to use them. But they just went ahead and implemented that, and that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
it doesn't look
no
like
questions.
Yeah, no questions. Nothing. No one's raised hands. Nothing in the chat. I think we'll wrap this up.
All right, I think we're golden. So thank you so very much to everyone joining us today. Anyone checking us out in the future on the archive, we're doing a lot better as far as updating that, and we have a updated archive link in the agenda right at the very, very bottom. Copy and paste, or simply click on it in your Office application or notepad. To Dr. Laura Miller, Northwest Eye Care, we'd again like to say thank you for supporting us and joining us since the very beginning. And to everyone else, thank you so very much for joining us. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for joining. Till then.
Hey, give me
a photo containing a mood. You have a mood.
Give me just a second here. I'm trying to close out the meeting.
What's up?
I said, give me just a second here. I'm trying to close out the meeting.
What'd you say, Eric?
Currently speaking, Aaron Hoffman, a photo containing a mood. Do you have a mood photo?
Aaron Hoffman, no. Oh, you're watching. No, I think it's AH, and then there's a silhouette or something that appears around the person who's speaking.